Hello and welcome to the Hotel Marketing Show. In this podcast, we're going to talk about all things hotel marketing. We're going to talk about things that are happening in the industry, insights, things that all hotel marketers or anybody that has an interest in hotel marketing wants to know about. My name is Victoria.
And I'm Nadine.
And we're the hosts of the Hotel Marketing Show. To kick off the podcast today, in this episode, we're going to be talking with Ursula, Digital Demand Manager at Columbus Monte-Carlo, about sustainability and the hotel industry.
Hello,
Hi,
Victoria.
Ursula. It's so nice for you to join us today. Very excited for this episode with you. Would you like to give us a bit of an introduction to who you are, what you do, and just anything you want to share at this point?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Nadine, for this lovely opportunity to talk about things that are very dear to my heart. So I'm Ursula. I'm the Digital Demand Manager at Columbus Monte-Carlo. And when you hear digital, you don't think necessarily of sustainability or something. So I have to say that this is a kind of a bit of a side project. And like I said, a cause that is very dear to my heart. I've joined the hotel 5 years ago, a boutique hotel in Monaco, and took on the task to develop our green initiatives and to present the hotel as not only a lifestyle hotel, but also a sustainable lifestyle hotel. I've been very much helped by great top management. And first of all, I really want to stress the point that a person alone can do very, very little in an organization if top management and ownership is not willing to do the necessary steps. The best green teams can do very little.
I think that's also something we're going to dive into a little later, because I think this is already your first really important point. You said it's a cause that's really dear to your heart, but of course you need to have the support and the enablement from top management there as well to actually bring your visions to life. So I think this is a good point to dig into a little bit deeper a little bit later.
Awesome. And Ursula, what was your highlight of 2022?
So the highlight of 2022, there were many. It was quite an active year on green initiatives, let's say. The highlight was actually just last week when we decided to participate in the European Week of Waste Reduction. So this is a European week that is taking part all over Europe in different languages. Monaco decided to participate as a destination. We had 83 actions of over 50 engaged societies, governmental organizations, private enterprises. So it was a real nice community effort to make it happen. And we at the hotel decided to participate with the 4 actions. So it was, of course, a whole week. We started out with a staff training, actually like a reminder on recycling and waste sorting, organized with the official enterprise that does this in Monaco. Then we continued on the Tuesday with a sensibilization workshop on fast fashion that I gave myself. So this was something that I decided to do for the employees of the hotel. And I was quite surprised how well attended it was, So it was over 15 people that decided to come and do the little workshop with me. And we continued then with the workshop open to the general public on upcycling. So we organized with an association with a professional seamstress, because I'm lost in front of the sewing machine, right? So we we partnered with a professional seamstress to offer a free, of course it's free, upcycling workshop to the general public. So the idea was basically that people bring old tissues or clothes that are really not serving anything, that they would literally throw, they can't even donate anymore, and to see what we can make out of it, like little pouches or little travel bags, or this kind of reusable makeup pads, makeup remover pads, those kind of things. And then we also had Buy Nothing Day. So we tried to sensibilize people on the existence of Buy Nothing Day, which is basically a counter movement to Black Friday. So kind of just that it exists, especially in France. Very, very little people have ever heard about this.
I was just about to say, sustainability and everything you said with fast fashion. I think then now with Black Friday in general, it's completely the opposite. I know of one brand actually that does the Buy Nothing Day, which is The Ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also something that was relatively new to me, because you're so used to seeing Black Friday offers everywhere. Buy one, get 3 for free, exactly. 70% off. So
yeah, and especially in hotel marketing, So we decided a couple of years ago to not do Black Friday anymore. And I have to say, at first, it was a bit hard for me because, especially in digital, this was a very nice promotion that used to work really well. And I mean, it just doesn't fit. At some point, you have to be consistent in your branding and what you want to get across. And it was only natural for us to sacrifice this promotion and to go in another step. We have to say that, of course, the textile topic was not something that we chose. It was the topic of the European Week of Waste Reduction. Last year, it was circular economies. And traditionally at the hotel, we participated with, for instance, Meatless Mondays. So it's basically about the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle. And in previous years at the hotel, which is a bit more natural to us than textile, we, for instance, did not offer any meat at the hotel. Which was also sometimes a bit tricky for our guests, but yeah, we did that.
Nice. That's so cool. Yeah, I like what you were saying about going almost against the grain, or like against like the normal kind of thing, because if you're setting out as a brand to do something, then you have to authentically embrace that in all parts of your brand, not just one, and then there's a few days where you just forget about it and then just do something else. So I like that change of mindset of like, we're going to go against what everybody else is doing because this is how we want to be as a brand.
Yeah. But it is, of course, work in progress, and we are way far from perfect, So there's a lot. There's every part of the hotel that needs to change in the basis. If you take textiles, for instance, it starts with uniform, ends at the restaurant. There's still a lot to do to improve ourselves, but I think we are on the right path.
That's awesome to hear. I know that we worked closely a couple of months, or might be even a year back, but I know that you guys also do a lot of other great promotions, even though it might not be Black Friday, but I remember in specific the Singles Day, for example,
Yes.
where you guys have awesome offers. So I think it's a nice way to just kind of play around with different offers and see what actually works for you.
Exactly.
I have a question just to kind of start a little bit more broad, which is the introduction to sustainability for hotels, which is, as you mentioned, of course, a huge topic. And I think we'll definitely not be able to cover everything of that in 25 minutes, but we can try. Could you give us a little bit of an idea? What did sustainability look like for hotels a couple of years back versus what does it look like today, and where are we headed, or where should we be headed?
Yes. So first, I want to make a small point that we are in a quite specific surrounding in Monaco. I'm not sure whether you've heard about this, but Monaco actually pledged to become carbon neutral by 2050 and reduce the carbon emissions as a general state by 2030. In order to have a chance of ever achieving that, of course, the whole country needs to be on board. And the government, the Monaco government, created the Pact for Energy Transition. And this is a very powerful tool, and actually also comes with legal obligations that bring us in the right direction. So this is just a little disclaimer about the very specific situation that we are in, just to talk about the hotel industry a bit more broadly. Sustainability comes in all different types and flavors. The most, let's say, obvious in hotels is waste reduction, plastic reduction, then a bit more in the mindset of the travelers, sustainable travel. What can I do as a tourist to lower my impact? Might I necessarily need to take the helicopter to come to Monaco, or would it not be an idea to perhaps just take the train? In more general terms, is it perhaps better to take the train instead of a plane? Might I be able to go by sailing boat like Greta did to New York, right? This was very, very extreme, but at least she marked the point. And we appreciate that this is absolutely not doable for everybody. We kind of focus really on the stay at the hotel when they are here, and try to promote kind of eco-responsible approach to a destination visit, meaning that we have, for instance, branded products that we sell in our hotel vitrine might be something, or are something that goes in the lines of the government recommendations for a responsible tourist. So, for instance, when you bring your reusable water bottle, or you bring a shopping bag or a shopping net for going shopping in the marketplace, and you take your reusable bamboo cutlery, you reduce already like a huge part of your disposable waste that you might accumulate during the day as a normal tourist going around shopping, eating. So even though plastic bags are forbidden since a very long time. Even paper bags, we all know it. Paper bags don't keep forever. You take them, it starts raining, they break straight away. So even though it might not be plastic waste, it will still be waste. Same goes for cutlery. Even though it is perhaps wooden, the moment you throw it away and it's single use, it still generates waste, and it still generates all the emissions that come with it from production to waste recycling. I know that this was perhaps a very long
No, I think
answer to a quite broad question. And in hotel industry, yes, so basically pretty standard a couple of years back was still the little amenities. Most hotels changed that years ago to put them either in containers, like bigger containers, or to reduce them at all, so to either go for solid shampoos, or the different countries have different preferences, right?
Yeah, I think that answer also, I think it shows that sustainability is more than just, like Nadine and I were talking about it before this, like it's more than just hanging your towels up and not needing them to be washed every day. Like it really extends
I completely forgot about that, but you're right.
Yeah. Like it really extends into much more, or so many more facets of a stay rather than just the towel kind of element.
Mm-hmm.
And then a question for you: do you think that there is much demand at the moment for sustainable travel? I know you mentioned that for your hotel, there's obviously some more kind of like government regulations, or regulations why you want to include more sustainable practices. But do you also see that there is a demand from travelers for the sustainability element as well?
And this is a bit frustrating. I keep waiting for it to happen. In transient travel, I predicted this already a couple of years ago, and it still did not quite happen. It depends, of course, on the country of origin. I have the feeling that the Scandinavian and perhaps German people are a bit more interested in sustainable travel. In any case, even in those countries and in those, we still don't see in individual travel a real trend. What we do see, though, is for event organizations and for business travel, for instance, companies that set up a specific corporate social responsibility guidelines that are obliged to, or that engage themselves into buying or into only allowing travel in sustainable hotels, then this is, of course, something that comes into effect. And we see it more and more in event organizers. So event organizers more and more ask about our sustainability actions.
That's so interesting, because I think it's like people maybe are at the point of like they care about sustainability, but then not so much that they are ready to book a whole trip like with like sustainability really in mind. Maybe there are other issues that are, or concerns when they're booking a trip at the moment.
Yeah, and I think it joins what I said before. So at some point they said, okay, yeah, I'm flying there, I'm having a weekend there. It is in any case not sustainable, this whole trip. So, why bother about the hotel if location, price, and then comes to the normal marketing,
Yeah, I think maybe that's like an interesting thing as well, because like when, I guess like typically, this is again like a generalization, but typically when people are booking a trip, it might be a bit of a treat yourself kind of moment. So these things like sustainability that they really focus on when they're at home, maybe still the perception of sustainability means like I'm having to give up something, rather than like I'm still able to have a really wonderful experience, but keeping a little bit more like, sustainability still in mind.
Yes, exactly. And especially, in everything that touches a bit luxury or indulgence, I mean, it is the nice packaging. It is the look and feel of a product. It is actually the unnecessariness of something that makes it luxurious. And this is something that by principle is going to create a dissonance, right? So to actively sacrifice and go to the bare minimum works with the people that have a very minimalistic mindset, that they really appreciate the pure luxury, minimalistic design. And perhaps it might work, but for everybody else and not normal human beings, it's kind of an education process. And, for instance, in hotels, we like to take care of ourselves. I mean, we perhaps would not take a bath every day home when we are at the hotel. However, we would like to, at the end of a long cold day, like to make a nice bubble bath, and you're at the hotel, that's a bit about that as well.
Turn the heaters up or the air conditioning down, like whichever one you would not do like at home.
Exactly.
I think this brings us also to a really interesting topic of finding, like, how do you manage to find this balance between the guest comfort and what they actually look for when booking a stay and sustainability? I know you touched on it at the beginning briefly about the Meatless Monday that you did, for example. This is one example, but how can you find the balance between actually bringing to your guests what they're looking for, but also standing clear on your sustainability approach?
Yes, this is actually a very tricky balance and one that needs to be really found. Something that we found quite effective is to reduce things that are offered. So we offer them only on demand. Plenty of things like razor kits, kind of those conditioners and things that are not absolutely needed. It's not that we don't have them, but we don't offer them upfront. So people have to ask for it. And this reduced, first of all, waste and of course also costs. So it's beneficial for the hotel as well. So I give you an example, for instance, razor kits, right? We made them in bamboo. They look very pretty. Just imagine giving that to every single guest up front. One guest out of two, just out of pure curiosity, would open it up, see what it is, probably not even use it. And then for hygienic reasons, you could not give that to another customer, right? So you would be in the obligation of throwing that away. Same goes for hotel soaps. And for hotel soaps, basically, this is not something that we could compromise on. For hotel soaps, we found a nice recycling solution with a charity organization that is called Cycle. So we collect all hotel soaps and send them to this organization that, kind of melt these soaps and brand them again and send them to Africa and do yard sales and those kind of things for charitable reasons. So this is something that is, for instance, an example of how you can deal with waste that you cannot avoid.
I love that. That is such a great concept and such a great idea. I do have to say, like, I'm in the wrong circle definitely to say it, but I was the first person who, when traveling to a hotel, just because the amenities looked so nice, they would come with me. Like, I'm like, I don't need them, but I want them. So I think I'm surely I can't be the only person thinking that way. So I think having that and actually not maybe enabling to be able to do that. If I need a razor kit, I can ask for one. It will be there, but it's not gonna, make me want to take it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But we are all like this, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think
I'm glad to hear
the curiosity element as well, because like I've definitely been at a hotel before where there's like a little sewing kit and I'm like, oh, what's in the sewing kit? And I don't need anything, but I just want to know like what's in it.
Yeah, exactly.
All your buttons are attached, but you want to see what colors they have.
Exactly. Oh, it's so true. And so we've kind of touched a little bit on some of the ways that your hotel is doing some like sustainability things or the efforts around sustainability. What are some other kind of like meaningful ways that hotels can actually be sustainable? So like thinking obviously not just about like the towels on the floor versus like the hung up things, but what are some ways that it can be both meaningful but also authentic?
I think a very important aspect of sustainability that is not, or that is sometimes overlooked, is a social responsibility and the place of the hotel in the community and also towards the employees. You have to imagine a hotel, easily has 50 employees. If already amongst those 50 employees, a specific mindset is created, you can already change people's lives, perhaps behaviors, and it has this kind of grassroots effects. And the second thing is also, as a community partner, recruiting policies. What do you give back to society? This is another aspect of sustainability that I find quite important. It's of course more very relevant in other parts of the world, right? Where it really matters whether you employ local people or expats, for instance. And then how many women do you hire? Do you respect ethnicities? What kind of mix do you have? And for giving back to society also, are you willing to engage yourself in giving back to your community, and in which way? And this is something that I think is another aspect of sustainability that is making a huge difference between a pure profit-run business and a real sustainable business. Sustainability always has this kind of long run in view.
I love all the approaches that you guys are taking, because now during the conversation, I come up with so many examples. With everything you say that is important, you actually also have something that backs it up, right? So I think this is the initiative I remember. Also, I think from last year, this was right where it was kind of the upcycling idea to say that there was a clothes donation for individuals who are applying for jobs who could then
Oh, yeah,
basically get
exactly.
their suits or their attire for their first
Mhm.
interviews. So it's, yeah, sustainability is so much more than recycling, but actually also giving back to the community you're in and having
Mhm.
this community feeling.
Yeah.
So you have so much that you guys are doing, so much that you're focusing on. How do you communicate that, A, effectively, and B, in a way that others understand that?
Yeah, that is yeah, well, that is the challenge of the day, right? So we actually had the discussion just the other day in a marketing meeting. There's different ways basically. So what I like to do is to for instance very classical newsletters, and to kind of segment those for local people versus the general client database of the hotel, right? So whether it is effective, it's a bit hard to say, because it can very well be that a client of the general database of the hotel is very much interested in our green actions, but we decided at some point to cut really local actions to local people, because otherwise people might risk unscribing from our newsletters and then not receive any news at all. If it's general huge actions like Pink October or Movember, we usually include that on the hotel website. I usually make landing pages, and yeah, basically it is included in the newsletter, in all transactional emails. So basically, all the guests that will come to the hotel before they're coming, in the pre-arrival emails, they will have a communication about what is going on. So like for November, for instance, the month of November, quite recently, why is our facade illuminated in blue? And why do we ask €1 for every night that you stay at the hotel? So that they are prepared, backed up with nice visuals to make it entertaining, and the link. So I'm really believing in this kind of read more. So I always include link to the mother organization or the idea behind it, and also the explanations on the hotel landing page. And then, of course, it depends. For instance, with Hotel Champ, we were very lucky to create locally targeted pop-ups or exit messages for people that were, for instance, visiting the restaurant page, and to tell them, look, during Pink October, we have created a nice pink cocktail, and of every cocktail that we sell, €1 will go to cancer support group. And this is something that can be communicated with proper targeting and tools.
That's really cool. I really like how
social
you,
media.
of course, social media, gotta have that. I love that you use targeting and segmentation for your messaging. I think that's really clever, especially like you mentioned, it's like hyper local, keeping that more relevant for the local people, or showing that to more local people rather than like the wider kind of audience. I think that's really, really clever. So if there is a hotel out there that maybe hasn't got anything going for them in terms of sustainability efforts, how would you recommend that they get started? If there's some like a hotel marketer out there listening, or a hotelier who's like, oh, I'm really passionate about sustainability and I want to make some changes for 2023, how would you recommend that they get started at their hotel?
So basically, I would recommend that they start to put themselves in their client's shoes and take a look at everything that the client sees. And then ask themselves, is this really necessary in, for instance, print? We start from brochures, right? We go to room directories, all the emails, also because, of course, emails, even digital communication has an impact. Do I really need to send out 3 reminder emails? All those kind of things, Then what does the guest actually use in the hotel room? Is it a pencil? Does it need to be in plastic? Can I perhaps have it in wood? Can I perhaps have it in sustainable wood? Does he really need to have a paper? Now, of course, also with COVID, everything that we have in hotel rooms is a contamination risk. Either you really pack it up and you decide, okay, this is the client's, and he goes away, he leaves with it as a gift. Otherwise, you would really need to have a protocol in place to disinfect it efficiently, or to remove it or put it in quarantine, and all these kind of things. So during COVID actually helped us a bit to get rid of unnecessary items in guest rooms. And then, for the towel, how many towels? Is there a place where they can actually hang it? Does it have a chance to dry? What about, the bath mats and everything? Is it the tissue that dries quickly? Sometimes there's a big difference between different providers in microfiber and touch and feel, and sometimes it goes really down to those things as well. Then internal protocols. Do I by default change the bedding daily, twice daily? Do I only change it on demand? Do I change it on, those kind of things already to include the customer in those decisions, the famous, eco sign. Before it was put the eco sign if you don't want your bed to be changed. Now it's the other way around. Put the eco sign if you want your bedding to be changed. Unless, of course, it's dirty, then we will still do it for guest comfort and hygienic reasons. Then the choices that the guest makes on site. Can I perhaps propose walking tours instead of bus tours? Can I perhaps tell them to take a bike or an e-bike or an e-scooter or an e-boat? There's so many things out there, right?
Yeah.
Can I perhaps engage them more in discovering nature than something artificial? No, I don't know. With children, for instance, is it not better to take them to a museum or to an actual natural playground rather than the Luna Park? Or that consumes energy and light and is just there for artificial experiences, right? And then also with what kind of souvenirs are the guests leaving? Do I offer them little, little stickers that are made of disposable plastic, or do I perhaps offer them a nice reusable or refillable candle or those kind of things? So there's a lot of different aspects. And for somebody that really starts out from scratch, I would really recommend going into those kind of follow the guest journey and see where they can improve.
I think those ideas are all so clever. And like one of the things that I never had really thought about, which I think is a really great one, and it doesn't cost anything, is like what you suggest, like the activities in the surrounding area that you suggest, because there's literally no cost to you as a hotel for making like sustainable suggestions for things to do around the area. So I think that's such a clever way to, encourage sustainability without having to take on a big cost or necessarily change a whole lot of operational things as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And also another point I think was really interesting is I think a lot of individuals and also hotels maybe want to be more sustainable, but then don't necessarily think about how it's going to impact, again, the guest comfort. I mean, the example you mentioned with the towels, is there a way I can hang up my towels, or is there just no way for me to dry my towels?
Yeah, the drying one, that's brilliant. Like no way for it to dry. Like I never would have thought about that.
Yeah, but it's these little things that I think are what you just mentioned are so important to exactly find that balance again between being sustainable but not negatively impacting a guest's experience while staying with you. Because otherwise, I think it can also lead to frustrations relatively fast. So you have to definitely find that balance there.
Exactly. And something that I forgot to mention is, of course, the hotelier can decide already before even the guest sees anything to make certain decisions for him. I mentioned the towels, the way that they dry, right? But for instance, if I as a hotelier choose to have organic cotton, and I mean, if costs are of course not an issue, this is always the reality that we
the balance
always fight against. Exactly.
Yeah.
You see, so if you really start from scratch, you can already decide a lot of things, also in the room design. If I rearrange, for instance, the hotel bed to the sofa, the guest might feel more comfortable. There's less draft, or he might need more heating. So there's different ways of room designing and general considerations that can be brought into that. And then, of course, everything that you offer and everything that you take into the hotel and that you offer at the hotel, if it is already sourced, if you can manage to source it already responsibly, that would be ideal. So, for instance, we engage ourselves in the hotel restaurant and everything that we buy, have short circuit, relatively local. Of course, there's limitations, but already in this, so already your base products are kind of sourced in a way that is responsible or sustainable. That the guest does not even see it, and it adds already to the overall experience and impact and footprint.
Yeah, that's really clever. And I think changing the default so that it is the default is the sustainable option, and then you have to choose to not be sustainable. I think that's a really clever way to, like, especially if it's something that as a hotel you're trying to incorporate into your DNA, like, authentically. I think that having the default as sustainable makes so much sense.
Yeah. For instance, one thing that was that I always found crazy was water bottles, plastic water bottles. I mean, tap water is perfectly drinkable in our region. We are very lucky, and it's in many places in Europe, it's perfectly consumable. If you take an average tourist, they might need five water bottles during a day. It's just something. So offering a reusable water bottle, or just the bottles that you have at the hotel, if they are made of glass and ideally not even be recycled, but in a closed circuit, rewashed, and brought back to the supplier, that is really ideal.
I think that's so true. Over the summer, I went to Greece, and the place that we were staying, it didn't have like safe drinking water from the tap. And we were in an Airbnb, and the host brought us like the kind of, it's like small bottle, like slab of water bottles. So I think that she brought us like 30 of these tiny little water bottles. And I was like, the amount of water I try to drink 3 liters of water a day. I'm gonna like go through that in a day. So I was like, this is not gonna work for me. Like, I can't make this many plastic water bottles in a day. It's just not gonna be good.
So did you buy like a water filtration thing, like a Brita or something?
No, what I did, like, to try, because they have some stations where you can go and fill up a bottle, but you have to have some, like, I don't know, some like key to unlock it. But what I tried to do was just get the biggest container of water possible. So it was just one thing rather than like heaps of little ones. I mean, it's probably still the same amount of plastic, to be honest, but I was like, I can't have all of these tiny little bottles just floating around.
Awesome. All right, I think it's almost time for the last question, and maybe my favorite one.
There's also one other question which I thought might tie in nicely as well, which was about the future of sustainability.
Oh, nice. So then you go with the future of sustainability, and then I'll save my question and my
Okay, perfect. So, Ursula, I know at the start that you also mentioned that you had previously made some predictions about sustainable travel. So I want to pick your brain a little bit more about these. But what do you think the future of sustainable travel looks like?
I think at some point will come, but this is just a very, very wild guess. I go out on a limb here. I think in the future, at some point, there will be a necessity for all of us to maintain a kind of carbon quota. I really think that this is something that will come in the not too far future, hopefully. And people will have to kind of live by this quota, and they say, okay, either I take my car to work every day, or I take the bike and I can go on a vacation. And I think, but this is really, this is, of course, not coming anytime soon, right? A bit closer, I would guess that it will become more expensive. Traveling will become more expensive. Non-sustainable options will become, or will need to become, more expensive than the unsustainable ones. And I think we are going to see a valorization, like the real cost of something. So I take again the example of fast fashion, right? They cannot sell pullovers for €5, if they calculate the real cost of what the product costs. They can do it because they exploit, and because they don't value anything that has to do with, neither water nor labor costs efficiently, right? If the real cost and the real value of goods and the impact they have on nature would be taken into consideration, products would be priced differently. Same goes for meat products. Of course, this will need to be a huge societal changes. I mean, this is not something that anybody can do individually, and this would need to require an enormous effort on behalf of all of us to change our habits. But I think that financial impulses have always shown to be very effective. So I would guess that this is a bit where it goes. What are your predictions? Or do you have any?
Oh, this is good. Okay, I should have prepared something because I wasn't expecting it to be. But what I was actually just thinking when you were talking was, I think this was specifically, it was around fashion. But what it was saying was that, and for a lot of these things, there's not a lot of regulation around it yet from like a sustainability point of view. So it's quite an interesting time for specifically like the big players, or even like as an industry, like working together to actually kind of start to set the new standard of like what actually like should a sustainable hotel stay actually look like. And so I think it's quite interesting for, these 4 people who are already leading the way in sustainability efforts in hotels to actually be able to say, like, look, this works, this doesn't work, and actually be able to go out there and like define what the future of sustainable stays will look like. So I just think that's just quite an interesting, it's nothing actually about my prediction for the future, but I just think it's quite interesting, like how the future might be shaped with the hotels leading by example, and then, regulation coming in after that as well.
And standards, So basically there are labels already out there that are very important. And, if labels change their requirements and become stricter, people will necessarily adhere to those stricter standards, right?
It's very true. Nadine, you have to give a prediction.
I was trying to think about how can I get out of the question, because I wasn't obviously. No, I think / I hope that education will kind of reach this point. I think we see it already with a lot of younger individuals now, that they are more conscious of their behavior when it comes to maybe travel or purchasing. I think we still have a long way to go, but I do think that there's a start there. And as both you and Victoria mentioned, for people to actually lead by example and show others that it's not necessary to have all these additions, I hope we can reach an equilibrium at some point of what we want and what we get, and change a little bit our behavior or our definition of luxury even, like you mentioned before, having the definition of luxury of having things that you don't necessarily need, or 25 ribbons, or wrapped in 12 sheets of plastic, I don't know what, but to just kind of reach a point where our mindset changes to what is luxury, for example. That's not really a prediction either. That's just a hope. I don't know what's going to happen, but I guess we can just hope for it, and then it'll happen and work for it.
One thing that I like, though, is also this resurgence of slow travel. And I think that's something that's really interesting. And it was a trend that we saw during the pandemic, but I hope that it's something that continues still, because especially in Europe, there's more and more train journeys being added, especially from Amsterdam. I've been keeping an eye on it as well. So some more like overnight trains and things like that. So I think that, and I think this is quite interesting as well, how like, maybe this is going off topic, but I can edit it out later if it is, but how like the digital nomad, or, people having more flexibility, so more time to, take the time to travel, and how that, all wraps up in with sustainability as well, right? So I don't only have to go away on my week-long vacation, so I have to get the quickest route there, but I can actually choose a sustainable option that takes me longer, and then actually have like, a trip that is a bit of slower, sustainable kind of travel as well.
And also appreciate the journey.
Yeah, very true.
Germany, you have that great saying, right? Der Weg ist das Ziel. I don't know if there's an English. I don't know if there's an English translation for it. Yeah, awesome. Okay, maybe it's time for my favorite question.
Yes.
Even though I have to say, I think this one is going to be really, really hard, because the question is, what are your 3 takeaways for any hotelier listening to this? We've heard so many great points and so many different directions, from what sustainability actually means and entails to what you can do, to the past, the present, and the future. So asking you to pick 3 might be a little mean, but it's okay.
So I think that the 3 main takeaways are: stay yourself, stay authentic. You don't need to be perfect, but you should be doing what you say that you're doing, and be consistent about it and be honest about it. We as Columbus Hotel are not yet certified because of budget reasons and because of several issues. We communicate this very clearly. It does not mean that we are not doing great green actions. This is, I think, a very important point. The second is, there's a very, very famous saying by Edmund Burke: nobody made a bigger mistake than those who did nothing because they could do only little. So know your worth, know your impact, and act on it. So you don't need to change the whole world. If you change already your own behavior, and perhaps ideally your employees' behavior and your guest behavior, you've contributed already greatly. And the third is really to follow the guest journey and see what can be optimized and made better, and and perhaps add a little budget to just wrap it up in your budget needs.
Wow, I love that. I think
Very
even
nice.
your 3 points were so powerful just now that I have 3 new points that I want to ask you about. But no, I think This is such a powerful statement as well. So first of all, I mean, everyone starts somewhere, and it's just about actually starting somewhere and then working from there. And also, I think that the transparency issue is so important. I mean, again, just be transparent about your efforts, about what is accomplished, where work is still needed or in progress, because I think that's also something that everyone out there values, to just know what they get. So awesome. Thank you so much for those
It's
great
really
2
nice.
points.
It was awesome. But thank you so much for joining us today, Ursula.
Thank you
I
so
think
much for having me.
this is such a big topic, and I think that just the amount of like insight that you brought, and also I think like your passion for the topic as well, I think is so clear. So thank you very much for sharing what you're doing, and even being like really honest about like where things are at for you as well. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome. It's something that is really dear to my heart, and if people want to reach out and discuss, I'm of course always available for discussion as well. So.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And for those of you listening at home or wherever you're listening, please share your thoughts with us. If you think there's anything else that we've missed, or if you have any questions about any of the topics that we've covered today, please get in touch with us at welcome@hotelchamp.com, and make sure to follow Hotel Champ on all of your favorite social media channels. Stay tuned for more episodes in the future. Take care of yourself. Have a great day, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.